Hi everyone, welcome to English Digest. I'm Pat.
And I'm Tom, and today we're going to be talking about going to the moon, or going in orbit around the Earth, or maybe even going to Mars, and we're going to do that with NASA.
Yeah, although we're going to be talking about NASA, but as our article suggests, the title is NASA Inventions Not Just for Space. We're going to find out how the things that NASA, which we'll explain in the article, works on, but it's basically the US space exploration group. They don't just make stuff for space travel. The things they have discovered and the science they've worked on actually benefits our daily lives. Which
Indeed.
is a pretty cool idea. We're using stuff that astronauts use.
Yeah, a lot of the technology that they used on the NASA missions are now used by us in our cell phones and stuff like that. We have NASA to thank for that because they were sending people into space and to the moon and stuff like that. And they're still planning to send people further afield, maybe out to Mars or Jupiter. Who knows?
Wow. I would love to go into space one day and just see what the world looks like from up there.
Yeah, I'd like to go into space, but not for too long. You know, I'd probably get claustrophobic inside a space station. So maybe just for a couple of hours, that would be enough. But again, let's talk about some inventions that NASA gave us. They're not just for space. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson right now.
NASA, the US government's space agency, has been at the cutting edge of interstellar exploration since it put men on the moon in 1969. Nevertheless, in recent years, NASA has come under threat from taxpayers who say the agency doesn't benefit them in any way. However, NASA doesn't just work on inventions for outer space. In fact, we unwittingly use NASA inventions on a daily basis, many of which improve our quality of life. It's a given that we all need to drink clean water in order to survive. Though you might not know it, the water that you drink is filtered with technology that NASA created. Water filtering technology was invented in the 1950s, but NASA greatly improved upon it so that astronauts could have clean water to drink in space. Water filtering companies copied NASA's technology, which has helped people around the world to stay healthy. If we're inside and there is a fire, smoke detectors will go off and alert us to get outside to safety. Smoke detectors have saved many lives, and the modern version was created by NASA and the Honeywell Corporation. They came up with smoke detectors outfitted with self-charging nickel-cadmium batteries for the Skylab space station in the 1970s. What's more, these alarms also prevent false alarms from occurring. Losing a limb is one of the worst things that could happen to a person. Thankfully, artificial limb technology has come a long way, largely because of NASA funding and research. Companies are using NASA's space robotics knowledge to advance artificial limbs for humans and animals. While NASA's main body of work is space exploration, it's clear that its research benefits us all, whether it's saving lives through water filtration, detecting fires, or creating artificial limbs. NASA has proven that it is worth keeping around for its many remarkable inventions.
Okay, let's talk about the contributions that NASA has made to our lives. NASA's inventions are not just for space. NASA is the U.S. government's space agency, and it has been at the cutting edge of interstellar exploration since it put men on the moon way back in 1969. This is one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. That, of course, is what Neil Armstrong said when he stepped on the surface of the moon, becoming the first man on the moon. But again, we're talking about the space agency, NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. of the United States government. It's the space agency. An agency is just some kind of company. We use it to talk about this particular agency in the government, but we could also talk about, say, a travel agency or maybe an advertising agency, etc. So this is the space agency of the U.S. government. And if you're at the cutting edge, that means you're kind of the leader. You're the one who's making all the inventions or making all the discoveries. You are kind of the leader in this. You're at the cutting edge of, say, business negotiations.
Exactly. We could also say on the cutting edge of. Both prepositions are fine. And it's kind of like the area of a study or a subject where the most interesting and the latest developments are taking place. Here, the developments are about interstellar exploration. So interstellar means between the stars. If you think of the word international, that means between countries, between nations. Stellar means stars. So interstellar means between the stars, which is why we use this word. You might also remember there was a movie with the name Interstellar that came out last year. And interstellar, or the year before, I forget when it came out, interstellar exploration. So exploring, the verb explore, the noun is exploration. It's discovering new things, finding out where things are, kind of mapping and just seeing what's out there. That is exploration. So interstellar exploration is exploring planets, moons, stars, and so on. One of its most famous accomplishments, of course, was putting men on the moon in 1969.
With the Apollo 11 mission, with, of course, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins, as I said before, they were the first ones to go there and land on the moon back in 1969 in Apollo 11. And indeed, these are interstellar missions, although I don't technically think they're going from star to star.
They're not, no.
Because if they want to go to the nearby star, like Proxima Centauri or something, that's going to take several thousand years to get there. But in any case here, nevertheless, in recent years, NASA has come under threat from taxpayers who say the agency doesn't benefit them in any way. Of course, the government can only afford these programs if we collect taxes from people, and the people who pay taxes are taxpayers, and they're thinking, if you're going to tax me, say, 30% of my salary, why should we be spending money on sending these guys to the moon? What good is a couple of moon rocks going to do for me? It's not going to put food on my table. I don't want my taxpayers' money to go for these ridiculous, stupid programs. At least that's what some taxpayers may be thinking now.
Fair point, you have to say. However, as our article points out, NASA doesn't just work on inventions for outer space, okay? They do other things as well. The article follows up and says, in fact, we unwittingly use NASA inventions on a daily basis, many of which improve our quality of life. So unwittingly, if you do something unwittingly, you don't realize you're doing it, okay? You have no idea. So unwittingly using something invented by NASA means you might be just cooking your dinner, turning on your lights, using a computer, and you have no idea that the technology you're using was a NASA invention. You just don't know. And like the article says, we use these things on a daily basis. So if not every day, then at least once every 2 or 3 days. So something that's so common, we just kind of forget about it and take it for granted.
That's right. We use these things every day, so you may not know it. You're unwittingly aware. Can you be that way? It's kind of a contradiction there, but you're just unwittingly using some of these inventions that NASA came up with on a daily basis, and lots of them, of course, improve our quality of life. Now, it's a given that we all need to drink clean water in order to survive. Now, here the word given, or it's a given, means this is true. In fact, it's so true that we don't really think about it so much. It's just got to be there. It's a given that we need to work during our lives. You know, you can't just get through life without working, unless, of course, you got rich parents who are dumb enough to keep giving you money. But it's a given that we all need to drink clean water. If we don't drink clean water, we're going to get sick and we're going to die.
Yes, so though you may not know it, the water you drink is filtered with technology NASA created. So that's our first NASA invention, which improves our life. The stuff that filters our water is a NASA invention. Now, to filter water, you're kind of putting it through something and it cleans it. It could be taking out bacteria, it could be taking out metals. It's just taking out stuff we don't want it to be there. And you can buy these and you can kind of put tap water through them, and then the stuff that comes out of the filter, it's often a big jug you keep in your fridge, that will be clean, pure water. Some of the filters are just inbuilt in the water processing plant so that when it comes out of the tap, a lot of things are already removed. Bottled water is created with filters a lot of the time.
So and your car may use an oil filter or an air filter, stuff like that.
It's all NASA inventions. The article says water filtering technology was invented in the 1950s, but NASA greatly improved upon it so that astronauts could have clean water to drink in space. To improve upon, we can also say improved on something, both prepositions are okay, means that you've improved it, okay? You improve on something, you improve upon something, a noun, in this case it, water filtering technology. So NASA made it better. NASA took what was already there in the 50s, but made it better, made it filter out more things, made it faster, more efficient, cheaper, and so on, so that astronauts, those people like Armstrong who go off into space, could get clean water to drink in space, which of course is a huge issue.
We call the people from the States and Western countries astronauts if they go into space, but if you're from Russia, at least during the Soviet era, they were called cosmonauts. And I guess if they are from China, we're supposed to call them taikonauts, like taikong, taikonauts.
I didn't know that
term. But in any case, yes, we've got astronauts going up there all the time from different countries now. And yes, indeed, you can imagine that it's very expensive to transport water up into space, so they need to recycle the water all the time. When you take a shower in space or when you pee or tinkle there, all that water actually gets recycled using NASA's technology. Now, water filtering companies copied NASA's technology. They thought, that's a pretty good idea, filtering water like that. We could use that down here on Earth. So these companies copied the technology. And this technology has helped people around the world to stay healthy, especially in areas that have difficulty with clean water, like in Ethiopia, for example. Lots of villages there just can't get clean water, so maybe some water filters might help them out.
Okay, we're going to take a short break now, listen to our Chinese teacher, then we'll be right back for the second half of the article.Hello
everyone, my name is Tina. 我们今天要探讨的主题是跟 NASA 这个组织有关系。首先我们来看到第一个空格的句子写道 Nevertheless, in recent years, NASA has come under blank one from taxpayers who say the agency doesn't benefit them in any way. 在这里看到的是许多的纳税人 taxpayers 觉得呢 NASA 这个组织又花钱又没有办法让他们获得什么利益，而 NASA 遭受到的是怎么样的状况呢？第一题的 A 选项 threat 威胁， B urgency 紧急， C violation 违法， D retreat 僻静所。受到纳税人的批评 NASA 这个组织似乎也受到了某种程度的威胁，所以搭配文意，第一题的标准答案就选择 A threat。 第二个空格，事实上呢 NASA 发明了很多东西是跟我们的生活息息相关的。第二个空格的句子提到 In fact, we unwittingly use NASA inventions on a daily basis. Blank 2, improve our quality of life. 事实上呢，我们每天用的很多的新发明都跟 NASA 有关，而这当中许多的新发明呢，都改善了我们的生活品质。在这里要考的是同学们对句型结构的概念，你会发现前面是一个完整的句子，有主词 we 跟动词 use， 而后面用的是逗号，还加空格，再加一个动词，所以我们要选择的是呢B 选项的 many of which， 这里的 which 呢，既是代替主词，也是代替连接前后两句的连接词。要记住哦，英文的句子前后两句当中一定要有连接词，才可以把它们连接在一起。所以第二题的标准答案就选择 B many of which， 利用 which 当作是关系代名词，也有连接词的作用。 第3个空格就提到了我们所喝的水，在这里第3个空格我们直接来看后半句提到 The water that you drink blank 3 with technology that NASA created. 事实上我们所喝的水呢，就是使用 NASA 所创造出来的科技来怎么样呢？第3题的 A 选项 filtering, B filtered, C is filtered, D to filter 其实都是跟 filter 这个字动词解释成为过滤有关。既然第3格的空格的主词是 the water， 而水呢则是要被过滤，所以在这里需要一个被动态搭配 be 动词 The water that you drink is filtered with technology that NASA created. 这句的意思就是我们所喝的水其实就是用 NASA 所创造出来的科技所被过滤过，所以第3题的标准答案就选择 C is filtered. 第4个空格的句子提到 Water filtering technology was invented in the 1950s, but NASA greatly improved upon it. Blank 4, astronauts could have clean water to drink in space. 事实上这种过滤水的科技呢在50年代就已经发明了，不过正是 NASA 这个组织呢大大的来改良它，这样一来呢太空人才可以在太空当中喝到干净的水。在这里搭配文意，正是因为 NASA 大大的改良技术，所以太空人才有干净的水可以喝。搭配文意，正确的答案第4题，我们答案就选择 D 选项的 so that.
We're going to take a short break right now, but please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi guys, welcome back to the article. We're talking about some of the things that NASA has invented, not just for space travel, but also that have improved our daily lives. People have copied the technology. One example we gave was water filters, improved by NASA, and then copied by water companies. So we use that idea today. Here's another. If we're inside and there is a fire, smoke detectors will go off and alert us to get outside to safety. So a smoke detector is that little thing you see on the ceiling of a lot of rooms and buildings, and it will flash a light, and if there's a fire, it will start going off, making a huge alarm sound, telling everyone to get out of the building, and it does that by detecting smoke, okay? It's the smoke from the fires that sets it off, and in fact, we use this phrasal verb here, go off. If something goes off, in this case, it means the alarm starts to sound. The alarm is triggered and it will start making a noise and flashing lights and so on. We could talk about a burglar alarm going off, a car alarm going off. We could talk about your phone's alarm to wake you up in the morning going off to tell you something.
And not just alarms, but also bombs. A bomb can go off or it can be set off. It can explode. Hopefully that won't happen near you. But again, these are smoke detectors. They're kind of sensors that can tell us whether there's smoke there or not. And they can alert us or warn us or let us know that there's danger. And then we can know to get outside to safety. Get out of that house. Not only will the fire burn you, but the smoke will choke you and you will suffocate and die that way. So thank goodness we have these smoke detectors to warn us or to alert us of danger.
Now, smoke detectors have saved many lives, and I'm sure you can guess from our article, the modern version was created by NASA, although in this case they were working with the Honeywell Corporation. A corporation is another name for a kind of a big group of businesses with multiple interests. So NASA worked together with them on this technology to create modern smoke detectors. Now, you can imagine that stopping fires on a spaceship is hugely important because they would just wreck the whole thing. So that's very important for astronauts, but it's also very important for us back here.
Indeed. So, yes, indeed, they needed those smoke detectors on their spaceships and stuff like that. And here it says they came up with smoke detectors outfitted with self-charging nickel-cadmium batteries for the Skylab space station in the 1970s. Many of you may not know about that, but NASA launched a kind of an international space station, but it was called Skylab back then. And they kind of lost funding for it, so eventually it fell to Earth. I think it was in the late 70s or so, and it crashed in Australia. It actually was quite a spectacle there. I remember the news of that. But in any case here, the smoke detectors on Skylab were outfitted with NiCad batteries, or nickel-cadmium batteries, which are rechargeable batteries. They are probably still around, I think, those AA-size batteries or AAA.
Yeah, they're pretty common.
Yeah, they still use nickel-cadmium there, whereas the battery in your phone is probably made from lithium. But in any case here, they were outfitted with these batteries. If something is outfitted with something, you could also say it's equipped with that thing. I bought a new car, and it's outfitted with power windows and air conditioning.
Sounds good. Now, these alarms weren't just self-charging, so they kind of recharged their own power. Not only did they detect smoke, what's more, the article says these alarms also prevent false alarms. Now, that's a big problem. If the smoke detectors go off for the wrong reasons, if they're set off by something else, then everyone will run outside the building and then they'll realize there was no fire and they'll stop paying attention to the alarm. So it's important to make sure the alarm only goes off when you want it to. A false alarm is when it goes off and there's no fire. So it's important to make sure that doesn't happen so people don't just get rid of their smoke detectors because they're annoying. So that's quite an important bit of technology there.
Indeed it is. So those are some examples of inventions that NASA has given us. Let's move on to another one. In the next paragraph, it says, losing a limb is one of the worst things that could happen to a person. A limb is basically your leg or your arm, the left one or the right one. So if you lose a limb, maybe in some kind of traffic accident, or maybe you lost your leg because you were fighting in Afghanistan and you stepped on a landmine and it blew your leg off, you have lost a limb, and that can be one of the worst things that could ever happen to you. Imagine that if you lost a leg, you probably would not be able to ride a bicycle again or walk like a normal person. That would be a terrible tragedy.
Thankfully, as the article says, artificial limb technology has come a long way, largely because of course, NASA funding and research. So artificial limb is like a fake limb, a replacement limb. The simple ones can be made out of kind of rubbers and plastics and a bit of metal. In the old days, they probably would have used wood. You think of a pirate with a wooden leg. That's an artificial limb. These days, things are a lot more advanced, a lot more technological, which is why we say that the technology has come a long way. That means that things have changed a lot. Things have got so much better in a fairly short time. Only a few hundred years ago, it would have been a wooden leg. Now we've got robot arms with moving parts that look like real limbs with, skin grafts on top of them and steel underneath. And that's, if even 100 years ago, people losing limbs in the First World War wouldn't have been able to get much. But now, people who lose a leg or an arm can get a really good replacement because technology has come a long way thanks to NASA.
Yeah, like a titanium leg like that guy in Forrest Gump had. He said they used it on the space shuttle. So, yes, indeed, we have NASA to thank for that. And the technology has improved a lot over the years because of NASA funding and research. And companies are using NASA's space robotics knowledge to advance artificial limbs for human and animals, or for humans and animals. Robotics just refers to using machines to do things that people used to. We commonly see them in factories nowadays, like a car factory. They often use robotics to make those cars, so there are fewer people in the factories. And yes, indeed, they have these, movable arms on the space shuttle. I think that was actually made in Canada, but in any case, these are like robotics that help astronauts do things in space and things like that. And they advance artificial limbs. So here, advance here is a verb. It just means to improve something, to move it forward.
Exactly. So we've got several examples here. We've got fire alarms, water filtering, artificial limbs. The article is going to sort of wrap up and conclude now saying, while NASA's main body of work is space exploration, it's clear that its research benefits us all. So we use this word while to mean yes, NASA's main work is space exploration. That is true. However, so there's a contrast implied there. It's clear that its research benefits us all. So whether we're using smoke detectors, water filters, whatever, we all gain something from it.
Right, while or even though their main goal is to work in space and send astronauts to the moon and stuff like that, it's clear that their research does actually do good things for all of us, and whether it's saving lives through water filtration, detecting fires, or creating artificial limbs, NASA has proven that it is worth keeping around for its many remarkable inventions. So maybe those taxpayers should change their minds and realize that their money is being well spent. It is saving lives because of water filtration. Filtration is the act of filtering something. Filtration, also detecting fires in your home, for example. Imagine how many lives have been saved because of smoke detectors. And artificial limbs, of course, are helping people who have lost limbs to get around like the rest of us. Well, NASA has proven that they're not only going to the stars, but they're also helping people right here on Earth with those remarkable inventions.
Yes, something remarkable is something amazing, something that gets people talking and making remarks about them. So something that's remarkable is usually a positive thing. We usually talk about good things with the word remarkable. So remarkable means, yeah, just it's great. They're really good. People were surprised by them. People were impressed by them. People wanted to talk and write about these great things and how they changed the world, including us here at AMC. We're now going to hand over to our Chinese teacher. Then we'll be back to finish things up for today.
接下来要看的是 smoke detectors， 也就是烟雾探测器。在这里第5个空格的句子提到 They came up with smoke detectors outfitted with blank 5 nickel-cadmium batteries for the Skylab space station in the 1970s. NASA 组织呢，其实它发明了提出了一个想法，也就是这样子的烟雾探测器可以配备什么样子的东西，然后后面看到的是 nickel-cadmium batteries， 配备的呢是镍铬电池，这样子在70年代呢就可以让太空的实验室来使用。第5题呢，都是跟自行充电有关。在这里的正确方式呢，正是要放名词，而充电在这里当作不及物动词，是主动的意味，所以正确的答案就选择 A self-charging， 也就是说这样子的电池是可以自行充电的。第6个空格的句子 Thankfully, artificial limb technology has come a long way, largely blank 6 NASA funding and research. 在这里提到的呢是义肢的科技，其实已经有长足的进展，正是怎么样 NASA 的资助跟研究。第6题的 A 选项 in spite of 尽管虽然， B in addition to 除了什么之外， C because of 因为， D according to 根据。正是因为有了 NASA 的资助跟研究，所以我们的义肢科技才能够进步的如此之多，所以搭配文意，第6题的标准答案就选择 C because of。最后一个空格 Whether it's saving lives through water filtration, detecting fires, or creating artificial limbs, NASA has proven that it is blank 7 around for its many remarkable inventions. 不管是水的过滤、侦测烟雾，或者是创造义肢， NASA 这个组织呢，其实都证明了它还是有存在的必要性。在这里要考同学 worth 的用法， worth 后面碰到动词的时候要以 VING 的形式来呈现，所以第7题的标准答案就选择 D worth keeping。以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
Okay, that is the end of today's article. We've learned about all the good that NASA is doing for people, not just in space, but down here on Earth.
Indeed. So make sure you join us again next time when we talk about yet another fascinating subject for your listening pleasure. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Pat. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.